I look at Broad, and the first thing that comes to mind is he's got spells. He picks up 2 or 3 or 4 at a time in one spell.
Go Ireland, go.
Only someone ran in and said, "Well, you need to come outside. Kev's just got 50. I thought he's only been in there 10 minutes. How's he got 50? That's what England do. If one bloke fails, the next guy tries to hit you out of the ground. If he fails, the next guy.
That 170 kind of T20 game has started to trouble them.
Ireland's batting will not fear the English bowling attack.
Hello and welcome to Cricket Inside Out. This week, we welcome to Cricket Inside Out my fellow Cricket World Cup insider, Niall O'Brien, as well as Harsha Bhogle. Gentlemen, it's great to see both of you, even if it is via a screen. And we have just wrapped up the first test series. We have some ODI cricket and another test series on the horizon. So as far as cricket fans go, we're all in a pretty good place. Are we, Harsha? Let's start with you.
Yes, we are. Yeah, I mean, can you remember we were chatting about looking forward to cricket coming back? We said we didn't know when cricket would come. We got a cracking first test between England and the West Indies. They sort of tailed off towards the end. Now you got Pakistan, some wonders. Who knows the IPL after that? At the moment, it's looking all right. But I'm delighted to say hello to Niall O'Brien because batsmen who played against him said they never saw him, but they heard a lot of him.
Lovely to be on. It's my debut, my first appearance. I've been waiting for weeks and weeks for that call and that invite, and finally it came through. So I'm absolutely thrilled to be joining you two. Being in the UK for this series between England and the West Indies, it's given the whole country a real lift, live sport, live entertainment. So I'm really delighted there's more cricket on the horizon, as you mentioned, England-Ireland, England-Pakistan, and obviously the IPL. So things are on the up. It's exciting here, and I hope you're enjoying it. All the viewers around the world are enjoying the cricket.
It was certainly probably the most anticipated test series of the modern era because we were all counting down to the start of it. No one quite knew what to expect of this whole new biobubble business. From what I'm hearing from the players, they have just kind of dropped into this and taken it in their stride. It is obviously pretty important for the continuation of action that teams just get stuck into whatever the biobubble requires of them. Of course, we did have the bit of a wobble with Jofra Archer. Harsha Bhogle, I'm sure no one else is going to be making that mistake now.
No, unlikely. But, the biobubble is just one of the many new intricacies in our game. I mean, you ask Niall, he plays on a green top one day, he plays on a Turner one day, you get used to different conditions. The bio bubble is just a new condition of the field. If the bio bubble means you can play international cricket, it's a small price to pay. Wonder what the players thought of it, though, being cooped in one place, getting a little bored of meeting the same people all the time. But we got some good cricket. The first test was just fantastic. I know they tailed away a little bit the West Indies, but it was so much better than no cricket. And I'm delighted a lot of people in England are saying thank you to the West Indies because we're well within their rights to say no. It reminded me of England coming back to India after all the trouble we had in Mumbai with all those explosions and the terrorism. And England were then as well within their rights not to come, but they chose to come. And I'm delighted that our little community is there for each other.
Niall, what did you make of the standard of cricket you saw in this series?
It was good. It was very good. I think England were a little bit off the pace game one, and credit to the West Indies. It was really interesting. I think 3 incorrect calls at the toss in each game. I think, Ben Stokes batting first in Southampton under really gloomy skies, and you guys have been to the UK many times. Cloud cover, a wicket it was a little bit dry, yes, but it was a bowl first morning every day of the week, and bowl first with Stuart Broad and James Anderson. The problem was Stuart Broad wasn't playing, and West Indies had a cracking game. And then the flip side, up to Manchester, up to the M6 they go, and then the West Indies, their decision of the toss was very strange. Even the last game, win the toss. You got 2 spinners, you want to be bowling last on that pitch, but no. Jason Holder opted not to do that. But standard was good. I think the players adapted very well, very quickly to no crowd. Sky Sports did a great job with kind of recreating a bit of crowd noise and a bit of atmosphere in the stadium. Watching on TV, it was slightly strange when there was an appeal and then the umpire, Michael Goffer, whoever the umpire may have been, gave the decision out, and no eruption of noise. It was a bit strange, but I think the players, well, the standard was very good. I was a little bit disappointed, I'm not going to lie, with Phil Simmons' men. I thought after going 1-0 up in the series, and I think they let England off the hook a little bit, but credit goes to England, and especially people like Ben Stokes, and a wonderful campaign, and Stuart Broad, fantastic.
Elba, I was just looking at the numbers because I agreed with what Niall said. The West Indies played beyond themselves in the first test. I thought they were magnificent in the first test. England were a little slow to start. It was a strange series where the top three on either side didn't have any averages to talk about. It was only Joe Root at number 4 who came in with a 40-plus average. Sibley's just nudged 40 now. But I was looking down the West Indies batting averages. In the top 8, their highest batting average is Shamar Brooks with 34. So you are going to expect these meltdowns from time to time from the West Indies, because they just need someone with that 40-plus average there who'll say, listen, I'm going to hold this innings up, especially when they're to bat through to save the game in the second and third tests.
Since November last year, England has now made 400 4 times, declaring on 391 another time. Before that, it only happened once in nearly 2 years. What changed, Niall?
Well, thought process, method, I suppose. Trevor Bayliss' regime, Chris Silverwood took over, and it was very much Chris Silverwood's mantra was old school cricket. Let's get runs on the board, how many we can get first innings. Doesn't matter how long it takes. Sometimes over the last 6 to 8 months, it hasn't made enthralling viewing, but they've got runs on the board and they've laid platform. You talk of Sibley, Crawley's done a good job. Denley's occupied the crease for a lot of time. Okay, he's out of the side now. Rory Burns is someone who has got stickability. He just stays in. He's hard to dislodge. And that's, okay, on the street or the punter in the stand or someone sitting at home watching, it's not edge of your seat kind of stuff. It's not Kevin Peterson, it's not Flintoff or people like that, or Trescothick at its pomp. But what it does do, it lets Joe Root walk off the field after captaining, maybe having a bit of a, frazzled brain, sits, has a cup of tea or a soft drink, whatever, unwind, relax for a little bit, and lets Ben Stokes rest up. And then whether it be a Butler or a Bairstow, cash in when the bowlers are tired after 50, 60 overs, when the ball is soft. So I think it's Chris Silverwood and Joe Root accepting, right, we need to do something differently. And credit to the players. They've picked the players to fill those roles. And I think England their batting lineup looks very solid, very, very good. Helps when you got someone like Ben Stokes batting at 4 or 5.
Certainly helps. Ben Stokes, one of the big names in the series. But of course, it would probably be the series that's remembered for the fact that Stuart Broad became the 7th bowler and only the 4th pacer to join that elite club of 500-plus wicket takers in Test cricket. Of the 7, he's the second youngest at 34 years and 32 days. Only Matteo Muralitharan was younger. What makes Broad so special? What are the specific aspects of his career that stand out, Harsha?
I think in those conditions, he's just the right bowler. In recent times, there's that wobbly seam that's coming in. Even Anderson likes that wobbly seam, not quite sure where it's going to go. I got the feeling a couple of years ago that we were starting to see the decline of Stuart Broad. And I read this article, and Niall will correct me, I'm not sure it's 100% correct, but I read this article where there's this analyst who said to him, listen, you're bowling 2 feet short. The fuller you bowl, the better you will be. And since he started bowling fuller, he's just started collecting this bag full of wickets, to the extent that the other day against the West Indies, he was erring on the side of being driven rather than on the side of being cut. So that just tells you how he's willing to learn all the time, willing to reinvent. There's that little competitive edge in him that you see sometimes. It tilts over into petulance sometimes, but if you're a captain, you don't mind because he's running in hard. And Niall, as a batsman at the other end, you've probably got a better insight into this. Why is it that one wicket leads to spells? I look at Broad, and the first thing that comes to mind is he's got spells. He picks up 2 or 3 or 4 at a time in one spell.
Yeah, he's that kind of bowler that when he gets the bit between his teeth, and you're spot on when you say that competitive edge, because I reckon Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson are probably 2 of England's most competitive cricketers, not just bowlers in recent time, but of all time. They have this, this will, this desire that they want to be the best. And I think they spur each other on as well. Something with Broad, spot on, Harsha, he was bowling too short. Previous regimes, he would not be driven. I will not be driven. That was his kind of philosophy. I'm 6'7". I'm a big, strong, fast bowler. I'm not going to bowl a half volley. Well, sometimes you've got to pitch the ball up, especially in English conditions and with DRS and reviews. You can review now and get an LB that in days gone by was not out. But actually nowadays, it's even more important to pitch the ball up because you're going to get a few LBs that maybe you could overturn. For Broad, it's just he gets in this rhythm, and I think you're right. A couple of years ago, he was bowling too short, and I think he was on a little bit of the decline. But now, 34 years of age, how long can he play? As long as he wants, in my opinion. Left out of the first game, and he was seething. I'm not sure if you saw his interview with Sky Sports. It was a really good interview because he didn't give you a usual, sit on the fence answers. He said, "No, I'm really disappointed. I'm gutted. I should be playing. I should not be dropped." And he said, "When I get my chance, I will show them why." And he did that.
Well, congratulations to Stuart Broad. Phenomenal effort. It was great, particularly for anyone who's neutral. Just great cricket viewing to see him putting on a show like that when he did eventually get selected. Now, a big announcement over the last week was that the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup Super League, something that was supposed to have taken effect but then was delayed because of the suspension of live cricket, now gets underway with the start of the England-Ireland ODI series. This is a really important development because it sets the pathway for qualification for the next Men's Cricket World Cup 2023, scheduled for India late in that year. Now, there's a lot of aspects to this that I'd like to get into with you guys. Harsha, let's maybe talk about that qualification. The top 7 teams and India will make it automatically. The rest of the following 5 will then have to play for qualification. In the current structure at the moment, we're going to see a lot of cricket, in other words, being played because we're making up for lost time. But teams also have to play a certain number of matches in order to get all the points together. What impact will this have?
First of all, let's look at the intent behind it. I'm a big believer in saying, look at the intent. If the intent is right, everything moves on from there. The intent is, we've got a 10-team World Cup that's cast in stone. Should we have 10? Should we have 12? Should we have 14, 16? That's a separate issue now. Nothing you can do about that. We've stuck with 10 teams at the World Cup. How do we get to 10? Let's allow the other teams an opportunity. So let's have a playoff, but let's reward the teams that are doing well day in, day out, consistently. Let's block the top 8. Let the balance 2 teams, that's 9 and 10, play off with 11, 12, 13 now, because there's 13 teams in the league. So teams that finish 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 will play against the other 5 teams in a 10-team playoff, and 2 teams will qualify from there. So there's some pressure on teams that are sort of 6, 7, 8. It's a bit like the last couple of weeks in the Premiership. When you're not sure, you want a point, sneak a point in here, sneak a point there. So the intent is good, but it's my profession to explain things to people. And I'm trying to think, how do I explain to people that some series will count and some series will not count? Because there's 24 games that you've got to play. There's a series of 3 home, 3 away. So explaining to people that some series will count towards points for World Cup qualification and some won't is always the difficult part. But to my mind, that's a small hurdle in an attempt to make most one-day internationals at least have a purpose. So that is the advantage. And if you're Ireland, if you're Afghanistan, if you're Netherlands, you're getting 24 one-day internationals. You must be overjoyed. I'm just surprised Niall O'Brien is not going and training and putting his pads and wicket-keeping gloves on again.
No, it's interesting. Harsha says he thinks that you might make a return to play, but Andrew Balvenie, when he was asked about it in the week, didn't want to talk up Ireland's chances of automatically qualifying. He says, okay, let's just hold our horses a little bit here.
Well, listen, I think it's a great opportunity. The biggest plus point for me is Ireland and the other nations getting more regular cricket against kind of bigger and better sides. Let's not make any bones about it. Ireland will get a chance to play a 3-match series against the world champions, showcasing their skills all around the globe. Every corner of the world will be watching these games. So first and foremost, I think that's a real positive. Points up for grabs. Are Ireland going to realistically qualify directly? It's going to be very, very difficult. But I think Ireland, if I'm right, Ireland don't have to play India. They don't have to play Australia. They don't have to play Pakistan. So I think Ireland may come out of this slightly better. So, am I getting the pads back on? I'm driving down to Southampton very shortly. There might be a bat and gloves in the bag.
So we're about 3 years out. October will mark 3 years out from the Cricket World Cup. What this does mean is that you can't only perform at a qualifying tournament. You need to consistently perform over the next 3 years in order to amass those points. And as we're seeing now with the congestion in this schedule, even from an England perspective, England has immense depth, but they are now at a place where they really have to manage their players because they're both competing in tests and in ODIs almost at the same time. And so teams that don't have that strength and depth is probably, they'll be stretched a bit more, or will they just adapt? Harsha?
Well, England have an advantage in that their top three in the batting order don't play limited overs cricket. So their top three are all right. The batting doesn't have to worry that much because Stokes can play for 300 days in a year. I think he just doesn't seem to get tired. And then there's Root will be a three over there, and Butler. So those are the three players. Look at their bowling stocks. I was just looking at the scorecard of that World Cup final. Who were the bowlers who bowled for England that day? And look at the bowlers that are going to be playing against Ireland this week. So that tells you the depth in the squad that England have. I mean, they're without Archer, they're without Wood, they're without Vokes, they're without Curran, without Plunkett. So only Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid make the side. Moeen didn't play that day. But England are currently blessed with some incredible fast and seam and swing bowling stock. So England will get by all right. I think it's the teams where there's a lot of bowlers playing both formats that will struggle a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with Harsh. I think England are probably best placed than most countries, because I think what we're going to start seeing Test cricket and one-day cricket almost running parallel at times. And at the moment, England have a Test match ongoing, their one-day squad. So England are pretty well placed. It's where squads and countries have less depth. I think they're going to really start to struggle. And that's where some of the Irelands or the lower nations, ranked nations, can try and capitalise, maybe trying to catch a Sri Lanka off guard or a team like that. So, it should be Afghanistan. They're a strong side. You think Afghanistan have a strong, probably 14, 15 players, a lot of spinners. Afghanistan don't play a lot of Test cricket, so they could be well placed to spring a few surprises as well and get themselves up the pecking order. Quite interesting. England, World Cup winners, they've got to re-qualify. So England won't want to slip up here against Ireland and start low down in the league table. So big games all around.
Fighting talk already from the Irishman. We are going to see a lot more of Ireland and the Netherlands, for example, in this Super League, and it does provide plenty of context. Or plenty of context for bilateral matches going forward. So England, Ireland, let's get onto that then, since Niall is so fired up for the action at the Ageas Bowl. Harsha, let's start with England though. The ODI team, first time that they'll be playing at home since that big game at Lord's. Pressure, expectation, what are they going into this with?
You'll have to ask the Irishman who leads them, won't you? You'll have to ask the Irishman who leads them. But I think he's been in England for so long that I think everyone's got over that. I think it's still a pretty strong side. I look down that bowling lineup. Tom Curran's a good bowler, but you look at who else they've got in terms of pace. They've got Topley, Willie, and Saqib. So maybe there's a little bit of inexperience there. A couple of guys coming back from injury. If Ireland can get some runs on the board, then maybe they can challenge England, because England are batting well. They've got Roy and Bairstow and Morgan, and everybody is in there. Billings is a good player in those conditions. So their batting is still pretty much looking after itself. But if they can go after that England bowling a little bit, then maybe that's where Ireland can sniff a chance. But Niall, can you close your eyes and ears a little bit, because I'm going to say England are favourites?
Well, listen, I would agree with you. England are obviously favourites. Ireland's batting, or Ireland's batsmen, shall I say, will not fear the English bowling attack. Ireland will back themselves to get 300 plus. Average score at the Rose Bowl, a GS Bowl, I beg your pardon, it's now called. These grounds, they change names so often with the corporate world that we live in. I think the average first innings score in a day-night game is about 254. So, that is... Ireland got 297 in the warm-up game against the Lions, which was nowhere near enough. I think the Ireland batsmen will fancy facing the likes of, as you mentioned, Harsha Curran, Reece Topley, Saki Mahmood, who's trying to find his feet in the game. David Willey's back. He thought his career was over, just reading an article on the website. He thought he was done and dusted. Mo, brilliant bowler. Adil Rashid, lovely bowler. But no real kind of 90-mile-an-hour plus options. So I think the batsmen will be fine. Ireland's bowlers are fearing England's batsmen. I can tell you that for a fact. They got absolutely mauled against the Lions a couple of days ago, the Ireland bowlers. And when speaking to some of the bowlers, I won't name names, but they said, Niall, the batsmen just kept coming at us. They kept coming. I said, have you not watched England for the last 4 years? That's what England do. If one bloke fails, the next guy tries to hit you out of the ground. If he fails, the next guy. So Ireland's bowlers have got a lot of work to do. Ireland's batsmen will be fine. I think the toss will be quite pivotal, really, because Ireland need to chase, in my opinion. They need to chase runs. That's when Ireland have had all their successes in big fixtures. Ireland generally aren't a good side at assessing conditions and setting a total. So, a couple of big games, and the Irishman obviously leading, and he'll know all the tricks.
So England had 2 weeks now in Southampton. They've had 2 intra-squad matches. You talk about that Lions game against Ireland. The Irish side, Andrew Balbirnie in an interview said that, there's almost no way of preparing for the rigors of an ODI match. If you haven't been playing, you haven't been playing. There's only so much, that you can do. So what is the psychological kind of process like, besides prepping everyone for being out there for a full ODI after they had a bit of a tough time against the Lions? Psychologically, what's the preparation like now? Because you're also living in the same hotel as your opposition, just in 2 different floors. It's very close, and everyone is in this really small kind of bubble environment. I hear that they're playing golf together. You've got your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the Ireland team.
Well, I'm about to drive to Southampton when we finish this call, and I've got about 15 cricket bats for 3 of the players in my boot that I picked up from a supplier here in the UK. And I said, listen, lads, come to the room and pick up your bats. I said, we can't. The manager won't let us interact with anyone else. I said, this is absolutely crazy. My brother's in the team, so I'm not even allowed to have... My brother's, he's WhatsApping me, asking me to bring him chocolate bars down to the hotel and stuff. It seems a strange world we're living in. In terms of preparation, you can't... Without playing games, it's very hard to find your touch, but you just got to get on with it. Both sides are in the same position. Some players have found form, which will kind of ease their nerves. Some players are still scratching for a bit of form, but I'm not a huge believer in all this. You need a long preparation. You need a lot of runs under your belt or wickets. I'm a big believer. Once you step on the pitch for a competitive game, you look across when the anthems are going up and you see England, of all teams, you're ready to go. You are ready to do battle then. You don't need to worry about what's gone on for the last 2 weeks or 2 months.
Besides your brother, who are you most excited to see out there for Ireland? Who will you particularly be excited for in the series?
Well, there's a young lad, Gareth Delaney. He's a batsman who bowls leg spin. It's a good story, actually, because he came through the club system in Ireland, lost his way a little bit, worked incredibly hard on his fitness because he had to, and got himself fit, strong, healthy. Now he opens the batting for Ireland, bats 3 for Ireland in T20 cricket, strike rate of 151 in T20 international cricket, and bowls handy leg spinners. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes in an ODI against a decent attack. Where Andrew Balbirnie uses him, I would love to see Delaney open the batting with Sterling, because that could be really pugnacious, attacking, and a real positive step, as opposed to maybe going with a James McCollum, who's a bit more reserved, a bit more technically correct. So I'm looking forward to seeing Gareth Delaney. And there's a young man from your part of the world, Elma, Curtis Camphor, played for South Africa under 19s, I think. Definitely South Africa under 18s /19s. played against England under 19s over here, got Tom Banton out in the game over here. I played against him in Pretoria, I think it was 2017, maybe 2018. I was at the No Strikers end. They just whispered in my ear, "I've got an Irish passport." So I thought, right, we'll have a bit of this. And he played well. He bowled well. He batted well. And after the game, some conversations started happening. He was very interested in playing for Ireland. But he's never played a game of cricket in Ireland. And he's about to potentially make his ODI debut for Ireland. So it's an interesting story. He's a clean hitter, bowls skiddy medium pace. And apparently he's got that real kind of die-hard South African attitude, which I love.
There's a lot of players where Elma comes from. There's a lot of players where Elma comes from that are playing in different parts of the world. I know it hurts, but that's the reality.
We are all over the place. You literally cannot get rid of us. Now, you mentioned Tom Banton's name. Harsha, this guy has been heralded as the next big thing. We've seen him. He made his debut for England against South Africa in Cape Town in February this year. Wicketkeeper batsman. Do you expect for this maybe to be his opportunity?
I'd like to see where he gets a game, because you've got Roy and Bairstow. You really don't want to separate Roy and Bairstow, though with Bairstow you don't know, because you sometimes keep pushing him up and down. But we've heard a lot about Banton. But listen, we heard a lot about Alex Hales too. And that didn't quite end up where we thought it would. So we'll wait and see. The best thing you can do when you're watching a young talent is to hedge your bets, just watch, follow the runs. Ahead of the script, we heard such a lot about Banton. I'm looking forward to seeing him in the IPL too. But I'd love to see him just score a lot of runs and discover for myself what this huge or this expectation is about.
Okay, well, let's get into our questions from the fans. Every week, we scour the web to see what you have on your mind. Axel Blaze Love on Twitter says, Niall O'Brien, sir, you were part of the Irish cricket team which made the biggest run chase in World Cup history. You've been paying attention. Share your experience in the environment of the dressing room when Kevin took the team towards victory. Take us back, Niall.
Well, I didn't see most of his innings. I'm not gonna lie to you, because I played a horrific stroke against Graham Swan, a big slog across the line and clean bowled. It was an ugly dismissal. So I was in the dressing room, throwing my pads around and kicking my helmet and so on and so forth. And Ed Joyce came and sat beside me because he ran past me and got stumped. So I didn't see Kevin's first 50 runs. Only someone ran in and said, "Niall, you need to come outside. Kevin's just got 50." I thought he's only been in there 10 minutes. How has he got 50? So then all of a sudden, right, we're on the roll here. England looked absolutely rattled, and they were rattled. They were dropping catches, they were missing runouts, their bowlers were getting hit out of Bangalore, on the highway there. It was absolutely fantastic. And I think there was about 10,000 in the starter play. But at the end of the game, the ground was full because word obviously spread around the city. And Ireland had 40,000 fans cheering them on, because everyone loves to see England lose, of course. So remarkable innings, an innings I haven't seen again. I haven't seen the likes of it again in a World Cup match. And it was kind of the making of Kevin, really, but it was sensational knock. It really was. And against England in the World Cup, it was amazing. And that ground at the Chinnaswamy Stadium, fantastic wicket. Brilliant place. Bangalore itself is a fantastic city. So yeah, it was a cool moment. It was a really cool moment. And my mum and dad were there. Kevin's wife was in the stand. She was crying her eyes out. So it was a lovely family moment. But I'll tell you one thing. The Indian business people, they're very quick, because the next day, myself and Kev were going down to get a bit of lunch, a bit tired, and we saw this big billboard with myself and Kevin's picture on it, and it was advertising something or another. And we thought, oh, these guys, they're not slow. They're jumping on that bandwagon pretty quick, aren't they? And then mum and dad, they got given a party in mum and dad's honour for being Kevin's parents. So Niall O'Brien was gone, forgotten about it. It was all about Kevin.
Well, I mean, that's becoming a trend on the show as well, because looking at these questions from everyone, Kaustav Dasgupta wants to know, do you see your younger brother Kevin to be the most successful and accomplished Irish cricketer of all time? I'm sorry, Niall, this whole episode is turning into a fan club for your brother.
Story of my life, Anna. Thank you very much. Okay, in all realism, do I think Kevin is the most accomplished player? I think Ed Joyce. For me, Ed Joyce is a Rolls Royce kind of batsman, elegant batsman, classy batsman. Should have played Test cricket for England. Probably at the wrong era, really. He was up against the likes of Cook, Strauss, Trescothick, Ian Bell, Michael Vaughan. So for me, I would say Ed Joyce is the best cricketer Ireland have ever produced. I think some of Kevin's accolades, fastest World Cup century, T20 century, first Ireland player to score centuries in all formats, shows how good a player he is, and not just the crash bang wallop that a lot of people see him for. I think he's a lot more consistent. And that 100 against Pakistan in a test match, in my opinion, was a better 100 than the 100 in the World Cup, because Ireland we were really in trouble. It was a wicket was doing plenty against a skillful Pakistan lineup. And for Kevin to bat the best part of a day showed he had real mental strength.
Niall probably won't say it, so I'll say it. He had a lot of respect as a batsman around the world too, especially because he batted higher up the order. So there's this Porterfield, O'Brien. When people talk Porterfield, O'Brien, they didn't talk Kevin, they talked Niall. But I just thought that side that went to 2007, you had Trent Johnston, the younger, was Boyd Rankin still around, younger player? Nice, good, tall bowlers. I thought Trent Johnston was a fantastic cricketer. And that game against Pakistan, that other game against Pakistan, I think I know which O'Brien scored a few runs that day.
Yeah, got a few. I got a few. Listen, we all every dog has its day, I suppose, Harsha.
Are you feeling shy, Niall? Are you feeling shy? Where's
like you're
talking
blushing.
Niall O'Brien? I know.
Oh my God. No, it's very hot. It's very hot in this room.
It's when Harsha Bhogle starts saying nice things about you. I know it's very it's flustering. Harsha, Sanjay Kumar Maharia wants to know: would you agree to my suggestion that leg by run should be abolished in limited overs games? Why should the batting side get favour for being unable to play, and it is a curse to the bowling side? What do you think?
Okay, I'll present both sides of the argument to you. Why do we have a leg game at all? Well, for a start, you score runs when you do well with the bat. It's an accomplishment. You score runs. Or the bowler makes a mistake. The bowler bowls a no ball. The bowler bowls a wide. The fielder makes a mistake. There's overthrows. There's additional runs. Overthrows, World Cup time. So we all know what happens with overthrows. So those are the ways you should be scoring runs. A batsman's accomplishment, a bowler's mistake. The batsman's actually missed it, and hence you can see where the argument started about why you should not award leg by runs. You talk to the batsman, though Niall was a batsman, you talk to the batsman and they'll say if you don't allow leg by runs, then they'll just bowl that negative, horrible, nagging line straight into your pads, and then you keep missing, you don't get runs, so that's to prevent the negative line into the pads. To which my answer will be, but hang on, you've got a bat on. So actually, I think it's open to debate. I don't they do away with leg buys.
Okay, Anurag Sinha wants to know: what should be the main focus of Irish cricket for improvement? Test, T20, ODI cricket, or all of them? Is there a balancing act here that requires balancing all three?
See, this goes back to the point about how big your squad is and how much depth you've got. For Irish cricket, and knowing the system, it's going to be very difficult for Ireland to really focus on all three formats and have success at those three formats. Ireland aren't playing much Test cricket at the moment, so realistically, you can get yourself prepared for a Test match in 3 or 4 weeks. I would imagine with three or four first-class games. For me, the World Cups are so important for the man on the street in Ireland who doesn't follow cricket, who watches rugby or watches football or watches Gaelic games. The World Cups are pivotal. To get Joe Blogs talking about cricket. Oh, have you seen that game? Ireland beat the West Indies and Nelson in the cricket. Like, that is the kind of conversation that occurs on the street in Ireland. They don't necessarily talk about Test cricket. So I think from a commercial aspect as well, Ireland needs to be at World Cups. That's how they can sell sponsorship. That's how they can sell the product or sell the players as such. So potentially 3 World Cups in 3 years. Really, really exciting time for Irish cricket if they can qualify for these global events. So I think white ball cricket should be at the forefront of Ireland's attention.
On YouTube, Fiery Killer says, what do you think Pakistan need at this stage to become T20 World Cup champions?
Well, Pakistan spent a lot of time being top of the table, being world number one in T20 cricket. Now, they were helped by the fact that there was some not so great opposition, but you can't hold that against it. They won 8, 9, 10, maybe 11 series in a row. They had some very good players coming through, Elma. There was Fakhar Zaman at the top of the order, and their core was in that middle order where they got 8 overs some days between Shadab Khan and Imad Wasim, both of whom could bat. Shadab, brilliant fielder. So there's a nice little side coming together. But look what's happened since then. That 170 kind of T20 game has started to trouble them. They're not chasing 170. They're not able to defend 170. They've lost some series in recent times. Fakhar Zaman is out of form. Shadab is batting more in the PSL than he's bowling. Their economy rates have just gone through the roof for the leggy. Imad Wasim is not quite the bowler he was. The fast bowlers coming and going. There's too much turmoil in that side. What they need is somebody in that top order. You've got a young Tom Banton coming in. You've got a Roy. You've got a Bairstow. You've got a Rohit Sharma. You want that one dominant figure at the top. They want Babar Azam to be that player. But once Babar Azam has gone below them, they're still playing occasionally Hafiz. They're still playing Shoaib Malik. They're still relying on those people to come good. I think they need younger people who can start playing 170, 180 games. But then it's easy for us to say so from the outside. Let's wait and see what happens. Abid Ali, Asif Ali, we need players like those to really come in and get the big runs.
Excellent. Thank you so much, guys, for sharing your insight and so generously of your time as well. And Niall, all the best for the next few days. I know that you're really invested in this, and I hope that Southampton brings us great weather, please. Harsha Bhogle, stay safe, stay healthy, and we look forward to catching up with both of you soon again here on Cricket Inside Out.